I am awake, I'm aware, and I'm alive.
Agent Power Huddle is a daily jumpstart, giving you all the tools you need to create an amazing real estate career. Led by top experts in the field, you'll learn how to sell more houses in less time while creating the life you want. Welcome to the Agent Power Huddle.
Let's just dive in, guys. This is we got a bunch of people here. Isabel, good morning. Selena, Brian's coming in. Let's dive in. I've got a guest host today, which is Monica Graves from beautiful Denver, Colorado. She's a team leader. She is she's an amazing human being. I'll just say that, Monica. How about that? Right? I mean, she sells a lot of houses, right? She's an icon agent with EXP, but it's really today, this is our Mindset Monday. So if you're here to get a little tune up or if you're just pick up some new strategies and skills related to mindset, you're in the right place. So Monica, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing fantastic. Like I said, it's a beautiful day here in Denver.
It is. And see, that's what I'm talking about, this attitude every time I talk to Monica. So I left out, by the way, she's also an author, right? And the title of your book is?
Inner Being in Balance, and it's 7 steps to success in business, life, and beyond.
It's pretty cool. So we're going to break down parts of that book. We're going to talk about exactly how Monica preps for listing appointments, buyer consultations. We're going to talk about a few of these things this morning. So I want to start right off the bat, Monica, with in terms of who you're being, your mindset. Do you wake up every day naturally, just like, I'm ready to rock? Or are there days when you wake up, you're like, you got to reconstruct yourself? And how does that work for you?
I would say, I'm human. It depends on the night before. So yeah, it's one of those where, of course, yes, I want to wake up and feel great. So that means that I probably need to go to bed at a good hour in order for that to happen. And then if I do wake up in the middle of the night, which happens sometimes, I'm very affected by the full moon. I know that sounds crazy, but with our bodies being so much water, a lot of times when I tell people that I am affected by the moon, they look at me like I'm, a werewolf or something. And I have to explain, well, physically, our body is made up of a lot of water. And so if the ocean is affected by the moon and the tides and things like that, imagine what it's probably doing to our body. So yeah, sometimes I will not sleep at all. Like Friday, was a flower moon and I pretty much stayed up all night. And so Saturday was a morning that I got to sleep in because of that night. But I wake up pretty energized and ready to go. And I think I've told you this before, Jesse, I'm all about, getting your body going. And so I just sit on the edge of my bed, hold my arms up into a funnel and just put myself out there. Like I am awake, I'm aware, and I'm alive. So just raising your arms up gets you in that moving situation. And then of course, heading to the restroom, I don't think there's any humans that don't need to go to the restroom first thing. So it's like, okay, how do I feel going to the bathroom? Let's not hang the head down low and mumble getting to the restroom. Just like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to rock and roll. Let's go. And so that's pretty much how I get that energy feeling and just,
that's awesome. It literally starts when you get out of bed.
Yeah.
Huh. I love it.
It almost just starts when I'm laying there, opening your eyes, don't just jump out of bed, sort of, do that aspect of that little ritual that I do just to get going.
I love it. So let's talk about some of these 7 principles for manifesting, success in life, business, beyond. Right? That's in your book. Is that one of the 7 principles? What are your 7 principles?
Yeah. So they're. It's the word balance, So inner being in balance. And so I started journaling about, gosh, I have to say 30 years ago, because I started journaling when I was pregnant with my son that turned 30 last month. And I also got my license when I was pregnant. So now I know every year I know how many years I've been licensed in real estate. And journaling, is a great way to just release things. And so I started writing about trying to be in balance. And so it's the acronym BALANCE. So B stands for believing, A, allowing, L, learning, A, affirming, N, nurturing, C, celebrating, and E, expanding.
I love it.
Yeah, it's easy. Next time you feel like out of balance, you can start thinking like that. Okay, what am I believing in this moment? I need to allow myself to have this balance. What do I need to learn? And then do some affirmations. That nurturing part of you is really, quit beating yourself up, right? We do that so often. We're our worst critic. Celebrate. And then expand. Expand from there. So it really only takes a few minutes to think about it. And then all of a sudden you're balanced.
All right, so we're going to unpack a few of those. I want to see how does this tie into if you have a listing appointment or a buyer consultation or some type of client meeting, right? How do those seven principles tie in, and what's your prep before you go into one of those?
So we all need to think a lot bigger than what we are, because again, it comes into that criticizing aspect of yourself. Give yourself plenty of time, because the last thing you want to do is be late. Watch traffic, watch the news, whatever you need to get there. Just always know that it's best for you to get there, even if it's 30 minutes early versus 5 minutes late. And I work in the mountains. You never know if it's going to be really bad weather. So I have to watch, like I said, the weather to make sure. But I like it that I give myself that prep time. And then when I get into the car, I always ask my angels to protect me, to be there, because the last thing you want is to be in some kind of accident or to be in traffic. I always feel like when I ask my angels to protect me, there's less traffic. There's less people, like trying to cut me off or things like that. And then when you actually get there, I do this. It's really funny, but I look at myself in my rearview mirror and I wink at myself and I say, "You got this." And, mirror work is so important in my life. I talk about it in my book. Have you ever heard of mirror work, Jesse? I'm sure you have.
Yep.
And so I'm a Louise Hay teacher and instructor. I was actually mentored by her, and Louise Hay, was one of the pioneers for self-development. And so I teach her workshops. And that was one of the things that I learned from her, was that mirror work, and so it really does help your confidence to just look at yourself and say, you got this. And then when I get out of the car, especially for a listing appointment, most sellers, they say like 50 to 60% of sellers are waiting on you, and they look out the window or they're looking out the door. And so I want them to see me big, or I want them to see me like my powerful self. So I'm always standing up really straight. I have my clipboard. I'm looking around the property, looking at the neighbors, looking at the curb appeal, looking at the roof, and they're watching me. And then when I get to the door, sometimes they'll open the door before I even like knock or ring the doorbell, because they're already like watching it. And then I want myself to seem bigger than the doorway. And when you visualize yourself bigger than the doorway, they're going to feel it. They're going to feel that confidence. They're going to feel your power. And all of a sudden they're like, wow. And I want that first impression to be wow, right? And so I think it's all about visualization, and sometimes I'll visualize seeing them signing the listing agreement or the buyer consultation. If you visualize that, you can actually do, we have electronic contracts. So since I'll have them already prepared, I'll go and see their signature, visualize that signature. And it's amazing how many times that works.
All right, there's a lot that I want to ask questions on. So when you're walking up to the house and you know someone is watching you, or even if you don't know, but you feel like someone is watching you, sometimes I think when folks are just starting to get used to this, it makes them a little bit like self-conscious. So did you start off knowing that if someone feels himself being self-conscious, do you have any tools that you would do to address that?
So we always forget to breathe, and breath is so important. And so I would say, just take a few breaths. That's what I do too before I do public speaking. Jesse, you probably do that too. Before you actually get out there, so that you won't have the jitters or the nerves. Just take like 3 breaths and think about your breath. And I always have this affirmation that Louise Hay said that was, the power is in the present moment. And so when you put yourself in that present moment, instead of too much worrying about the future, things seem to go so much better.
So what is it about taking the breath that brings you back to that present moment? And then once you take that breath and brings you to the present moment, do you just get like, try to figure out how do we, those are some tactical things, but then how do you get used to this fact that like, okay, someone's watching me, but like, I got this. Like, does it all kind of go, is it like a circle? Does they all kind of like bring you back to the same place?
Yeah, it's like I said, it's more of that confidence, right? You can't just go into like I've got 2 listing appointments today, and you want to do all that prep work in the aspect of driving the neighborhood, doing the comps, going in and seeing those properties. But being confident is about practicing. So many people just think that they're just going to wing it. I could never just wing it. It would make me feel so uncomfortable, right? So I just think that if somebody is expecting me, watching me, I want to be as big as I can in that aspect of physically feeling it. And I think that it just helps me with my confidence, just knowing, you're going to do great. Now, what happens if you don't get the listing, right? Or what happens if a buyer doesn't want to work with you? The mindset part of that is, I did the best that I could have. Maybe even ask the seller, after they let you know, no, they went with someone else, ask them. Be confident enough to ask them why, right? So that you can learn from that versus beating yourself up about it, more about, oh, okay, well, those are some things that maybe I can change. Sometimes the chemistry is just not there, right? I mean, I had that happen with a buyer last week. Prepping the buyer for 3 weeks. They flew out here, and then I heard that they, actually met with another buyer agent and had them, it was a friend. And then they just said, oh, there was something about this friend, interior design background. When I don't have an interior design background, I can't do anything about that. So move on, right? There's always going to be somebody else. There's always enough.
How did you develop that belief? Because I was going to ask you, how do you get yourself to how do you handle this? But you answered it. You move on. How do you get yourself to have that belief that there's always another client there for you? Because I feel like that gives you that sense that it's okay to move on. So how did you develop that?
The abundance mindset is difficult, especially if you've got things that aren't working out, because the scarcity aspect of it will just tend to make you have more scarcity. And I always felt like, when I was a young kid, and I talk about this in my book, I've always had this outlook that there's a source taking care of me. Okay. And all I have to do is really ask for that, ask for the aspect of, I want something better. And the abundance mindset is there's always something better. And if you just open your mind to it and be able to receive it, because I think so many times people maybe ask for things, pray for things, whatever you want to call it, do affirmations, but then they really don't feel it. You have to really, really feel it. And the feeling part of it is what makes it actually happen. You can do affirmations all day long, but if you don't believe it, it's not gonna work, right? So abundance, yeah, I've always had that aspect of there's always something better. I've always wanted to better myself, not judging, which is really hard. I think we judge ourselves, judge others on a daily basis. And if you can release that judgment aspect of it and just sort of try to understand why are you going through this versus judging the situation of it, just release it, let it go, and just know that something out there is better waiting.
It's that back to that first be in balance with belief, right?
Mm-hmm. It's all about believing.
Interesting. Yep. So with the ups and downs that most real estate agents face, because I've been doing this not quite as long as you, but 20 years, and I think all of us have those moments where it's like we think it's going well, and maybe it doesn't in the moment, right? And you move on, and you have if you have that belief, it really does give you that sense of back to that sense of confidence. So I want to circle back to confidence. How much of your success do you attribute to that feeling of confidence, the way you show up for clients? How important is that in your world?
I think that, like I said before, the practice part. Let's say you're getting prepared for the Olympics, okay, and it's the same kind of thing. I think with our business is you can get a coach, right? So a coach will hold you accountable for doing the things that you need to do, or you can try to do it on your own and practice. Because the more you practice, the more it becomes second nature. And then the more second nature you have, that more confidence. So it is really about, you would never go into a competition or a like I said, the Olympics without being this daily thing that you've got to do, make sure that you do your best. And whether, like I said, a coach can definitely help you with that, because a coach is going to say, here's the things that I need for you to do. I'm going to hold you accountable for it, just like any kind of sports coach would do. And then that confidence comes before the presentation or the actual doing, because you practice it so much. It's like, I got this. That's what I say. Why I always say, look at myself in the mirror and just say, you got this, because it really goes into that part of you, the energy aspect of it. And I want that confidence energy to connect with that person, the buyer or the seller. And then the process, I've got a process. If you don't have a process, then you might as well just not really be doing it, because a process is going to help you have that confidence.
Okay, so there's practice, but you just threw another one in there, which is the process. Right. And I think this is where maybe a coach fits in for people. Is there certain areas of real estate that every agent should be practicing, or does it help to have a coach who will identify for you, you should practice on this piece or that piece? What do you think it is for most agents?
I think that if agents had someone that could hold them accountable, whether, like I said, a coach or a team lead or someone that's going to to practice that process, because I have, I'm a ninja. I was a ninja instructor for ninja selling for 12 years. And I think Selena, I talked to you about this when we met at EXPCon. It's the ninja selling part of it gives you a 10-step buyer process and a 16-step seller process. That process changed my life and changed my business, because I was sort of just going with, the way I thought that it was going to work. And then once I had a process, I explained to the buyer or seller that I had a process. And they like it. They like that you have, they're like, oh, okay. And then I'm like, would you like to go over that process? And then it's just these questions that are done in order. And I feel so confident because I know that it works, right? When something works. And so I think that having that accountability or coach say, here's the process, let's practice it. Let me be the buyer. Let me be the seller. And sometimes when I practice, or I tell an agent, if they're going to practice with a team member, I tell them to try to be hard on them, so that they're, don't be really nice and just answer things that you think are going to make it easier on them. I said, try to make these questions answer with something difficult, so that person can practice on, oh, this is going to be a difficult seller, or this is going to be a difficult buyer. And then when they're not, you're a hero, right? When you go in and you're like, okay, I'm ready for anything. And then you just get them to sign the listing consultation or the agreement. I love it when, they sign right there afterwards, and I even ask them, are they meeting with someone else? And if they say yes, then I'm always first. I'm like, let me go first. And I like being first. And then that objection, when they say they want to meet with someone else, I always ask why. And they're like, well, I was just thinking maybe they might have a different opinion on price. And I'm like, well, you already agreed with me on price. And so I'm like, what else could they say that would steer you away from working with me? And then they're, that confidence part of it comes out, and they're like, I really like this, that you're confident that you can take this. And then I'm like, yeah, let me just call your other appointments and I'll cancel them for you. And then they're, the seller's looking at me like, really? I'm like, oh yeah. And they're like, well, I feel obligated. Oh, don't feel obligated. Let me just do it for you. I'll let them know that you're going with me. And those phone calls, some agents get really upset, and some agents are like, oh, well, thank you so much for, saving me some time.
Is that all part of the process, by the way? Or did you
That's
develop
all part
that
of the
over time?
process.
All part of the process.
Because I do a pre-listing interview with buyers and sellers on the phone. Do the pre, before you meet with them in person. So you can build that confidence.
I was going to say, so we'll have to do another podcast that's on some of these processes, because this is, I forget that you were a coach for so many years for that. But so step number one for someone would be, it sounds like, if they don't have a process, go get one.
Get a process. Yep.
And if they have a process, start to evaluate and refine it and make sure it's working. Like, did your process evolve over the years? Or has it literally been like, you got it 12 years ago and it just works and you've been using it?
No, it did. The Ninja process, it tripled my business in 1 year.
Wow.
Just to have a process and to have that mindset of confidence and know that this system works and this process works. So once you start doing the process over and over and over, it becomes so ingrained that confidence is just there, because you know, oh, the system works, right? I'm not going to question the system.
How do agents practice it? Like, are you just talking about role play? Or are they like reviewing? How do you recommend people practice this stuff?
No, I do. I think that, like I said, it's either going to be another peer, have an accountability partner, and set it up. Mondays are great because you don't know what all is going to happen in the week. So maybe it's previewing properties. Maybe it's, doing a Zoom like this and just practicing. But that's what I would suggest in order to get the confidence and the mindset that you can achieve. And I don't really like calling it closing, but you can gain that buyer or seller definitely from the mindset of you have it, because it just takes that practice. So either a coach like myself, I'll mention my website. It's called manifestwithmonica.com. And so what you'll find there is some information about my book, but also about using me as a coach to help you with things like this. Having a process, or at least having somebody as your accountability partner. I just think accountability partners are so important.
What structure do you recommend for people for accountability partners? Daily, weekly? What sort of structure do you recommend?
I think, once a week is good, because like I said, Mondays are usually a great time to get with someone and let them know how your week is going. Oh, I've got this listing coming up. I'd love to just go over, this with you. And sometimes that accountability is also following up with the week before. What did you do? What are the things that you did? And it's almost like when you're meeting with somebody, you're forced to do a little bit extra because you don't want to show up without have done some of those things that you've done, they were holding you accountable for. It's just like anything, if you've got something that's due, you want to have that accountability person hold you accountable to make sure that it gets done. It's hard being alone, alone on an island and trying to get yourself to do these things. Accountability partner or coach is always help you to be the best that you can be.
Yeah. You've dropped so many little things in just the last 20 minutes. It's like, and some of these things, if you've been in the business, personal growth or real estate world for a while, you've heard some of these, but it's when you stack them all up on top of each other, it really is a pretty powerful box of tools that you've just talked about, Monica. It's really cool.
Yeah. Well, there, and there's always been so many studies about, visualizing, what visualization can do for you. So I do that every morning. I visualize what my day is going to look like. I visualize how that consultation is going to go. I call it consultation versus presentation, because I feel like it needs to be a back and forth thing versus just me doing a presentation. Once I changed that word to consultation, it made so much more sense versus, because, when you're presenting, that's why I wanted you to do this question answer thing versus me just presenting, right?
Yeah.
Because when you just present, I like you don't get to feel as much of it versus when somebody's, consulting or going back and forth with questions and answers.
Absolutely. I think that I can tell the energy dynamic. It's much better. So last couple minutes, if you have not even new agents, but someone who's an experienced agent right now who's listening to this, if they're looking for a tune-up or to tweak something, what would you recommend? What would you tell them to do?
That's a good question. So yeah, with the tune-up, I've always believed that open houses and previewing properties is one of the best ways to actually practice what you preach, right? Because when you have open houses, you're actually dealing with people in real estate versus just networking. Networking's great, not saying, but because you definitely need to be networking and prospecting. But if you do 2 open houses a weekend, that's going to be 8 open houses a month. Usually the participation at each open house is between 5 and 15 people. So if you look at those numbers, all of a sudden you're in this abundance mindset. I just met 5 people. There's 5 more people I can add to my database. And then if you do that 8 times, let's just say it is only 5 people. Then you're like, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, good. That's 40 people that you just added to your database times 12, right? So a lot of times people don't think about that, and they're like, I need more people. And I'm always like, well, you need to actually go out into these neighborhoods, preview properties, see if you can do an open house, know that area. And then I always tell people the best, especially if you're new in the business, if you get invited to something, go. Don't make up excuses about why you can't do a happy hour or why you can't attend something, because you will come away with meeting people if you just go, right? If you're not being invited to something, then create something yourself. Create a meetup group, or create a happy hour, or create something. And I've never had a problem with meeting people because of that. When you get invited and I say go, okay, let's say if it's in an area where you're going to this happy hour at someone's house, or a party, or a football thing, or whatever it is, I say study the neighborhood, go preview the properties before you go to this party, because most of the people that are going to be at that home are probably going to be neighbors. So now you know about this area, and you can even talk about it to, and they say, oh, I live in the neighborhood. Oh, really? Did you see that property down the street that just sold for, and they're like, wow, this girl knows about this neighborhood. Oh yeah, I know about this neighborhood. I'm friends with, so and then they might ask you, how's the real estate market? When you tell them what you do. I always answer with, what have you heard? Instead of just talking about the market. Because when you ask those little simple words, what have you heard, and let them talk about it, then you know what they're thinking. And then you can come back with, instead of just doing, again, that's consultation versus presenting. How many times are we asked, how is the market? When they know you're a realtor, and they see you face to face, it's almost the first question. What do you think about the market? And then I always say, well, what have you heard, or what do you think about it? And then they start, well, I've heard this, and then you know how to respond.
I love it, Monica. I'm gonna start using that. What have you heard? I
Yeah,
got something good in there too. Oh, good.
And then the other 3 words are tell me more.
Tell me more. That I know. I love tell me more.
Let them talk. Yep, because people love to talk, and they like that you let them talk, and so all of a sudden they're their confidant, and they're like, I really like this person. Maybe when I get ready to buy, I'm going to use this person. So I always tell brand new agents that those little things, those little tidbits, and they say they work. Yep.
Monica, this is great. So your website's manifestwithmonica.com,
yeah.
Correct?
Manifestwithmonica.com and
manifestwithmonica.com. Go ahead.
My book, Inner Being and Balance, you can check it out there as well. And, my mindset in the morning, my morning routine is definitely, the journaling and reading. But I wanted to mention this book because I don't know if you have heard of it. It's called Project 369.
No.
The Key to the Universe, Evolved Consciousness. Cool. They have a workbook. So the workbook is called The Key to Wealth, Abundance, and Prosperity, Project 369. I think that you guys will love it. I'm going to put a class together. I've already talked to the author. It's all scientific. So if you like science, it's based on Nikola Tesla and his work with energy.
I love it. I just wrote it down. I will check it out. Thank you for being here. Happy Mindset Monday to you and everybody. We'll see you. Truly, Monica, this is awesome.
I know. And now you got me thinking. I'm gonna start something called Monica's Mindset Monday.
Oh, there you go. All right, guys. Have a great day. We'll see you.
All
tomorrow.
right. Bye, you guys.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.